Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, make a picture from all his facts. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Sri Radhikacharya Stotra Satya Sri Srimad Divine Grace Kalabai Charanarvani Bhaktivedanta Swami Sri Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Chandiditi Founder Charya Divine Grace Sri Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Samavata Bhakta Vrinda Ki Sankirtana Ki Gandharaj Bhagavatam Ki like all the people all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru, to Sri Gauranga, all glories to Sri Prabhupada. Jai. I just wanted him to take a few pictures, not getting to a whole course here. Anyways. Akama sarva kama moksha kama udharadi. But yeah, one of the courses we can and should be offering. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksurandritam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Dita Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shya Shri Rupam Sagadatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tvam Sajivam Ragvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalitam Shri Vishakanditam Shya Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusuti Devi Pranamami Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha. Maybe you can tell him he can come back because he's slowing down his work. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Shaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Todayam Bhaktirayat Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, let us first offer respectful obeisances unto Narayana, personality of Godhead, unto Nara Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayesha badreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering the service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed, practically condemned, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose praise with transcendental songs becomes established as uncontrollable type. Our devotees are leading. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samhitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreyasaya Lokasya Dhanyam Swasayanam. This Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Granthara, the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God, the Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya 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 Om Sarabhyay Namaha 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 Om Sarabhyay Mukam karoti vacharam pangom nangayate girim yatkripa tamaham bande karam dinataranam yatkripa tamaham bande karam dinataranam. Hare Krishna. Welcome to the morning Bhagavatam class. We are continuing from the third. And today we don't have a translator. Our Ishvara Puri, who has been translating very enthusiastically every morning. So, you will translate? Either you or Krishna Chaitanya. You try something so that the members of the family are not in total darkness. So let's see. Canto number 2, chapter 3, entitled Pure Devotional Service. And thank you. 11. Text number 11, 1-1. Etavan Eva Yajatam Iha Nishreyashodayah Bhagavati Achalo Bhavu Yad Bhagavata Sangataha Etavan Eva Yajatam
एतावन्नेव यजतम्
इहानिश्रेयसोदयः
इहानिश्रेयसोदयः
भागवत्या चलो भावो
भागवताचलो भावो
यद्भागवत संगतः
यद्भागवत संगतः
एतावन्न एव यजतम्
एतावन्नेव यजतम्
इहानिश्रेयसोदयः
इहानिश्रेयसोदयः
भागवत्या चलो भावो
भागवत्याचलो भावो
यद्भागवत संगतः
यद्भागवत संगतः
एतावन्न एव यजतम्
एतावन्नेव यजतम्
इहानिश्रेयसोदयः
इहानिश्रेयसोदयः
भागवत्या चलो भावो
भागवत्याचलो भावो
भागवत संगतः
यद्भागवत संगतः
एतावन्नेव यजताम्
एतावन्नेव यजतम्
निःश्रेयसोदयः
इहानिश्रेयसोदयः
भगवती अचलो भावो
भगवती अचलो भावो
यद्भागवत संगतः
यद्भागवत संगतः
एतावानेव यजताम्
एतावानेव यजताम्
श्रेयासोदया
इहानिश्रेयसोदयः
भागवताचलो भावो
भागवत्याचलो भावो
भागवता संगता
यद्भागवत संगतः एतावन्नेव यजताम्
एतावन्नेव यजतम्
इहानिश्रेयसोदयः
इहानिश्रेयसोदयः
भागवत्यचलो भावो
भागवत्यचलो भावो
यद्भागवत संगतः
भागवत संगतः एतावन्
एतावान्
uh, all these different kinds of worshippers
all these different kinds of worshippers
వివిధ రకాల ఆరాధకులు
eva
eva
certainly
ఖచ్చితంగా
yajatam
yajatam
while worshipping
while worshipping
పూజించేటప్పుడు
iha
iha
in this life
in this life
ఈ జీవితంలో
nishreyasa
nishreyasha
the highest benediction
the highest benediction
అత్యున్నతమైన దీవెన
udayaha
udayaha
development
అభివృద్ధి
bhagavati
bhagavati
unto the supreme personality of Godhead
unto the supreme personality of Godhead
పరమాత్మని
achalaha
achalaha
unflinching
బదలని
bhavaha
spontaneous attraction
సహజమైన ఆకర్షణ
yet which
ఏది
bhagavata the pure devotee of the Lord
the pure devotee of the Lord
భగవంతుని శుద్ధ భక్తుడు
sangataha
association translation and purport by the Divine Grace of Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki.
yeah.
A little bit of a long purport this morning. So we begin with the translation. All the different kinds of worshippers of multi-demigods can attain the highest perfectional benediction, which is spontaneous attraction, unflinchingly fixed upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by the association of the pure devotees of the Lord.
వివిధ రకాలైన బహుదేవతల ఆరాధకులందరూ అత్యున్నతమైన పరిపూర్ణమైన ఆశీర్వాదాన్ని పొందగలరు. ఇది భగవంతుని యొక్క స్వచ్ఛమైన భక్తుని యొక్క సాంగత్యం ద్వారా మాత్రమే భగవంతునిపై నిర్విఘ్నంగా స్థిరపడిన ఆకస్మిక ఆకర్షణ.
Jai. Purport, line by line. All living entities in different statuses of life within the material creation, beginning from the first demigod, Brahma, down to the small ant, are conditioned under the law of material nature or the external energy of the Supreme Lord.
మొదటి దేవత బ్రహ్మ నుండి మొదలుకొని చిన్న చీమ వరకు భౌతిక సృష్టిలో వివిధ జీవిత స్థితిగతుల్లో ఉన్న అన్ని జీవులు భౌతిక ప్రకృతికి నియమం లేదా పరమేశ్వరుని బాహ్య శక్తికి లోబడి ఉంటారు.
The living entity in his pure state is conscious of the fact that he is part and parcel of the Lord. But when he is thrown into the material world on account of the desire to lord it over, material energy, he becomes conditioned by the three modes of material nature and thus struggles for existence for the highest benefit.
తన స్వచ్ఛమైన స్థితిలో ఉన్న జీవుడు తాను భగవంతుని యొక్క భాగమని మరియు భాగమని స్పృహ కలిగి ఉంటాడు.
Wow, that was short. Okay, no problem. What is that verse in the Bhagavad Gita that is explaining this point here? Probably many of them. One of them comes to mind, especially how the living entity, all living entities who come in the material world, although we are all parts and parcels of Krishna, I'm thinking about the Sanatana. Manasastrani Indriyani, because of our association with the material mind, material senses, Prakriti Stani Karshati, all such conditioned souls are struggling very hard. And we all have different experiences of that. Okay.
And the 7-5 also. 7-5 also.
7-5, which is?
Which is higher than Jagati. Jagat is the last.
Okay. Yeah.
So
many
all
verses.
the living entities are trying to
Yes.
explore the material world.
Material desires are for the transcendentalist bad news. Bad news means, source of problem. So continuing here, this struggle for existence is something like following the will of the wisp under the spell of material enjoyment.
భౌతిక శక్తిపై ఆధిపత్యం వహించాలే కోరిక కారణంగా అతను భౌతిక ప్రపంచంలోకి విసిరివేయబడినప్పుడు.
What's another word for the will of the wisp? You probably should know that. You know, it's an expression, English expression, not used that often. The will of the wisp. I never really. It's like
hunted. Somebody's hunted.
Huh?
Somebody's a hunted person. Ghost hunted.
Hunted person. Will of the wisp. Can you look up what does wisp mean? Actually, wisp. It means, the majority of people in the material world, they just not really being responsible. They just do whatever they like to do at any time and totally irresponsible. Actually, not knowing, not understanding that if I do this reaction will be there, and anything and everything outside of devotional service is creating, heavy reaction, negative reaction for us. Well, sometimes positive reaction in that we get elevated to a better position, but ultimately that is negative because it's keeping us away from Krishna. Yeah.
It is like a sprite. These
Spray?
Forest sprites that lead. Forest sprites or marsh sprites that lead sailors astray while they're.
Sprite.
Sprite is like a spirit. Forest spirit.
Forest spirit.
Or something.
I don't know about Sprite.
Spirit.
In America, they have a drink that's called.
No, it comes from the Sprite.
Okay. So in forest sometimes there's
So and like the Furies concept they have in the ocean. There are some Furies that sing and lead the people astray.
Okay.
As
Following people who
yeah, they don't realize they're completely into
they may becoming under the influence
yeah
or the spell.
yeah. So
allure.
for all of
Yeah.
it, they have the same. Even certain like when there is fog over a marsh,
Uh,
that is also
yeah.
Here, that thing that is impossible to obtain.
Thing that is impossible to obtain. Okay. Which dictionary? Yeah, I guess they're different angles.
no. This is like an etymological understanding. This is how it,
Right. Which means uh, another blend of Maya,
mm,
basically. Yeah.
illusion. Yeah.
Hmm?
It actually is illusion. It actually is
Illusion. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just like the water in the desert. Not reality. Yeah.
Also, it says a person that you cannot depend on.
The person that you, yeah, well, materialistic people are not dependable. uh, or even devotees who are under still the influence of Maya are sometimes not dependable, unfortunately. But devotees are. A lot of activity this morning. These are typical scenes you see on documentary. They're happening in our backfield, in our backyard. Um, okay, let's continue because it's long report here. All plans for material enjoyment, either by worship of different demigods, as described in the previous verses of this chapter, or by modernized advancement of scientific knowledge without the help of God or demigod, are illusory only. For despite all such plans for happiness, Prabhupada writes long sentences, the conditioned living being within the compass of material creation can never solve the problems of life, namely birth, death, old age, and disease. Haribo.
అతను మూడు షరతులతో ఉంటాడు. భౌతిక స్వభావం యొక్క రీతులు మరియు తద్వారా అత్యధిక ప్రయోజనం కోసం ఉనికి కోసం పోరాడుతుంది.
Okay, good. The history of the universe is full of such plan makers. Yes. And many kings and emperors come and go, leaving a plan making story only. And people study those at the university and waste their time.
అస్తిత్వం కోసం ఆ పోరాటం భౌతిక ఆనందం కోసం సెల్ఫ్ కింద విన్ ఓ ది డిస్పెన్ అనుసరించడం లాంటిది.
That is why those who are devotees, sometimes people, they ask them, don't you know about this history? Don't you know about that history? Don't you know about that person? About that person? And our answer is that we study the history of great people. And in Kali Yuga, most of the people are just not great. Isn't it? So, as a matter of fact, in the Bhagavatam, I forget which section, there's a history of the different kings, you know? And then at one point, it stops because there's no more great kings. So there's no reason, you know. Modern day society is unaware of actually of what is actually a great king or great personalities. And their history is therefore limited to in Kali Yuga, people who were taking the position of kings because it's Kali Yuga generally came out as bad kings and bad queens.
actually that is a Purana's characteristic. One of the characteristic they should list out lineages.
Yes, one of the 10 characteristics. So Prabhupada concludes this first paragraph by saying, but the prime problems of life remain unsolved despite all endeavors by such plan makers.
భౌతిక ఆనందం కోసం అన్ని ప్రణాళికలు ఈ అధ్యాయంలో మునుపటి శ్లోకంలో వివరించిన విధంగా
Next paragraph. Actually, human life is meant for making a solution to the problems of life. Sometimes Srila Prabhupada would further clarify by saying that human life is meant for making a permanent solution. People are working towards making solution everywhere in every country, but they don't know how to make permanent solution. And of course, the permanent solution um, is to get out of the material world ultimately. Yes.
భగవంతుని లేదా దేవదేవుని సహాయం లేకుండా శాస్త్ర విజ్ఞానాన్ని ఆధునీకరించడం ద్వారా కేవలం భ్రమ మాత్రమే.
One can never solve such problems by satisfying the different demigods, by different modes of worship, or by so-called scientific advancement in knowledge without the help of God or the demigods. Yes.
ఎందుకంటే ఆనందం కోసం అటువంటి ప్రణాళికలు అన్ని ఉన్నప్పటికీ దిశలో ఉన్న చరిత్రలతో కూడిన భౌతిక సృష్టి జీవితంలో సమస్యలను సృష్టిస్తుంది.
This is the major fault, defect, folly of modern day society in general. Modern day leaders, modern day scientists, they are trying to address or resolve the problems of the world without the help of God, because they think they are powerful or they can become powerful or whatever. So the very fundamental, basic theme in our Vaishnava or Vedic understanding philosophy, that unless we take help from higher authority, ultimately Krishna and personalities who are of that higher consciousness and realization, we cannot solve even simple problems of life. He will only translate what's in the book, so I'll continue here. Apart from the gross materialists who care very little either for God or for the demigods, the Vedas recommend worship of different demigods for different benefits, and so the demigods are neither false nor imaginary. Yes.
ఫిజిక్స్లో ఉన్న షరతులతో కూడిన భౌతిక సృష్టి జీవితంలో సమస్యలను జనన మరణ వృద్ధవ్యం మరియు వ్యాధిని ఎప్పటికీ పరిష్కరించదు.
The demigods are as factual as we are, but they are much more powerful due to their being engaged in the direct service of the Lord in managing different departments in the universal government.
వృద్ధవ్యం మరియు వ్యాధిని ఎప్పటికీ పరిష్కరించదు. విశ్వం యొక్క చరిత్ర అటువంటి ప్రణాళికలతో నిండి ఉంది మరియు చాలా మంది రాజులు మరియు చక్రవర్తులు వస్తారు మరియు పోతుంటారు. కేవలం ప్రణాళిక.
The Bhagavad Gita affirms this, and the different planets of the demigods are mentioned there, including the one of the supreme demigod, Lord Brahma.
కానీ అలాంటి ప్లాన్ మేకర్లను ఎన్ని ప్రయత్నాలు చేసినప్పటికీ జీవితంలో ప్రధాన సమస్యలను పరిష్కరించలేదు.
So taking guidance from or taking help from God, as mentioned a few lines before, means taking guidance from literatures like Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, which ordinary people or leaders don't do. Yeah, it's all based on their limited, imperfect perception. The gross materialists do not believe in the existence of God or the demigods. Yeah. Yes.
విశ్వం యొక్క చరిత్ర అటువంటి ప్రణాళిక కర్తలతో నిండి ఉంది మరియు చాలా మంది రాజులు చక్రవర్తులు వస్తారు.
He's trying to teach his son who is not into it. Yeah, this is what's happening all over India. Has been for a long time. The second generation is just not interested, right? In general. So it's yeah. Uh, we're talking about what's going on just the next door on the land. They have yesterday cut the paddy, and after cutting it, they lay it down, and then the next day, which is today, they have to tie it in a particular way. And it's very interesting because definitely must be his son uh, who is doesn't know how to. He's doing it like real fast, so fast that actually it takes a while for somebody who doesn't know. You learn, yeah, of course, yeah. Uh, that's the preliminary um, qualification of a student is willingness to learn. Which when that's kind of like absent, uh, then obviously one cannot learn so quickly or so well. Okay, back to our report. Uh, hmm, they are creating a great commotion. Prabhupada is referring to the scientists. They are creating a great commotion about reaching the closest celestial body, Chandraloka, or the moon. But even after much mechanical research, they have only very scanty information of this moon. And in spite of much false advertisement for selling land on the moon, the puffed up scientists or gross materialists cannot live there. And what to speak of reaching the other planets, which they are unable even to count. Bible.
విశ్వం యొక్క చరిత్ర అటువంటి ప్రణాళికకర్తలతో నిండి ఉంది మరియు చాలా మంది రాజులు చక్రవర్తులు వస్తారు పోతుంటారు కేవలం ప్రణాళిక కథను మాత్రమే వదిలేస్తారు కానీ అలాంటి ప్లాన్ మేకర్లు ఎన్ని ప్రయత్నాలు చేసినప్పటికీ జీవితంలో ప్రధాన సమస్యలు పరిష్కరించలేరు.
However, the followers of the Vedas, all of you sitting here, followers of the Vedas, have a different method of acquiring knowledge. Well,
నిజానికి మానవ జీవితంలో జీవిత సమస్యలకు పరిష్కారం చూపడం కోసమే భగవంతుడు లేదా దేవతకు సహాయం లేకుండా వివిధ దేవతలు సృష్టించడం ద్వారా
they accept the statements of the Vedas, Vedic literatures as authority in toto. In toto means completely, fully, as we have already discussed in Canto 1, and therefore they have full and reasonable knowledge of God and demigods and all their different residential planets situated within the compass of the material world and beyond the limit of the material sky.
వివిధ పూజా విధానాల ద్వారా లేదా జ్ఞానంలో శాస్త్రీయ పురోగతిని అని పిలువబడడం ద్వారా అటువంటి సమస్యలు ఎప్పటికీ పరిష్కరించలేరు.
The most authentic Vedic literature accepted by the great Indian acharyas like Shankara, Ramanuja, Madhva, Vishnu Swami, Nimbarka, and Chaitanya, and studied by all important personalities of the world, is the Bhagavad Gita, in which the worship of the demigods and their respective residential planets are mentioned.
ప్రత్యక్ష సేవలో నిమగ్నమై ఉండటం వల్ల వారు చాలా శక్తివంతమైన వారు. భగవద్గీత దీనిని ధృవీకరిస్తుంది మరియు సర్వోత్తమైన దేవతలు ఒకరైన బ్రహ్మతో సహా దేవతల యొక్క వివిధ గ్రహాలు అక్కడ ప్రస్తావిస్తాయి.
The Bhagavad Gita affirms in 9:25, Yanti Deva Vrata Devan.
Yanti Deva Vrata Devan.
Yanti Deva Vrata Devan.
Yanti Deva Vrata Devan.
Pitrin Yanti Pitri Vrataha.
Pitrin Yanti Pitri Vrataha.
Bhutani Yanti Bhuteja.
Bhutani Yanti Bhuteja.
Yanti Mad Yajino Pimam.
Yanti Madhyajino Pimam.
Translation: the worshippers of demigods reach the respective planets of the demigods, and the worshippers of the forefathers reach the planets of the forefathers. The gross materialists remain in the different material planets, but the devotees of the Lord reach the kingdom of God.
దేవతలను ఆరాధించేవారు ఆయా దేవతలకు సంబంధించిన గ్రహాలను, పితృదేవతలను ఆరాధించేవారు పూర్వీకుల గ్రహాలను చేరుకుంటారు. స్థూల భౌతికవాది వివిధ భౌతిక గ్రహాలలో ఉంటారు, కానీ భగవంతుని రాజ్యానికి చేరుకుంటారు.
This is Varnashram Prabhupada is in action. Actually, like he should be one of our teachers, the father who's trying to teach his son. Yeah. Okay, we have two more paragraphs here. We also have information from the Bhagavad Gita that all the planets within the material world, including Brahmaloka, are but temporarily situated, and after a fixed period, they are all annihilated.
భగవద్గీత నుండి కూడా మనం సమాచారం ఉంది. బ్రహ్మలోకంతో సహా భౌతిక ప్రపంచంలో అన్ని గ్రహాలు తాత్కాలికంగా ఉన్నాయి మరియు నిర్జిత కాలం తర్వాత అవన్నీ నిర్మూలించబడతాయి.
Therefore, the demigods and their followers are all annihilated at the period of devastation. But one who reaches the kingdom of God gets a permanent share in eternal life.
కాబట్టి దేవతలు మరియు వారి అనుచరులు అందరూ వినాశన సమయంలో నాశనం చేయబడతారు, కానీ దేవుని రాజ్యాన్ని చేరుకునే వ్యక్తి శాశ్వత జీవితంలో శాశ్వత భాగస్వామ్యాన్ని పొందుతాడు.
This is where devotees are aiming to go. That is the verdict of Vedic literature. The worshippers of the demigods have one facility more than the unbelievers due to their being convinced of the Vedic version, by which they can get information of the benefit of worshiping the Supreme Lord in the association of the devotees of the Lord. Yes.
ఆది వైదిక సాహిత్యం యొక్క తీర్పు దేవతలను ఆరాధించే వారికి అవిశ్వాసుల కంటే ఒక సదుపాయం ఎక్కువ ఉంది, ఎందుకంటే వారు వేద సంస్కరణ విశ్వసిస్తారు. దీని ద్వారా వారు భగవంతుని భక్తులు కలయికలో పరమేశ్వరుని ఆరాధించడం వల్ల కలిగే ప్రయోజనం గురించి సమాచారాన్ని పొందవచ్చు.
The gross materialist, however, without any faith in the Vedic version, remains eternally in darkness, driven by a false conviction on the basis of imperfect experimental knowledge or so-called material science, which can never reach into the realm of transcendental knowledge.
స్థూల భౌతికవాది అయితే వేద సంస్కరణపై ఎటువంటి విశ్వాసం లేకుండా అసంపూర్ణమైన ప్రయోగాత్మక జ్ఞానం లేదా భౌతిక శాస్త్రం అని పిలువబడే తప్పుడు నమ్మకంతో నడిచే చీకటిలో శాశ్వతంగా ఉంటాడు.
Materialistic persons, even the greatest of scientists, are battling to understand or deal with the material world, the material energy, with the planets, etc. So Prabhupada is making the point. They have absolutely, it's obvious to us, of course, they have absolutely no access beyond what is matter. Prabhupada is pointing this out. Last paragraph or purport. Therefore, unless the gross materialists or the worshippers of the temporary demigods come in contact with a transcendentalist, with a transcendentalist like the pure devotee of the Lord, their attempts are simply a waste of energy.
భగవంతుని శుద్ధ భక్తులైన దివ్య భక్తుల అనుగ్రహం వల్ల మాత్రమే మానవ జీవితంలో అత్యున్నతమైన పరిపూర్ణత అయిన స్వచ్ఛమైన భక్తిని పొందగలరు.
Only by the grace of the divine personalities, the pure devotees of the Lord, can one achieve a pure devotion, which is the highest perfection of human life.
భగవంతుని యొక్క స్వచ్ఛమైన భక్తుడు మాత్రమే ప్రగతిశీల జీవితానికి సరియైన మార్గాన్ని చూపగలరు.
Only a pure devotee of the Lord can show one the right way of progressive life.
కాకపోతే భగవంతుడు లేదా దేవతల గురించి ఎటువంటి సమాచారం లేకుండా భౌతికవాద జీవితాన్ని మరియు తాత్కాలిక భౌతిక ఆనందాల కోసం దేవతల ఆరాధనలో నిగ్నమై ఉంటారు.
Otherwise, both the materialistic way of life without any information of God or of the demigods, and the life engaged in the worship of demigods in pursuit of temporary material enjoyments are different phases of phantasmagoria.
కాకపోతే భగవంతుడు లేదా దేవతల గురించి ఎటువంటి సమాచారం లేకుండా భౌతికవాద జీవన విధానం మరియు తాత్కాలిక భౌతిక ఆనందం కోసం దేవతల ఆరాధనలో ఉంటాడు.
They are nicely explained in the Bhagavad Gita also, but the Bhagavad Gita can be understood in the association of pure devotees only, and not by the interpretations of politicians or dry philosophical speculators.
అవి భగవద్గీతలో కూడా చక్కగా వివరించబడ్డాయి, కానీ భగవద్గీత స్వచ్ఛమైన భక్తుల సావాసంలో మాత్రమే అర్థం చేసుకోవచ్చు. రాజకీయ నాయకులు లేదా శుష్క తాత్విక ఊహాగానాల వివరణ ద్వారా కాదు.
And the translation again to text 11. All the different kinds of worshippers of the demigods can attain the highest perfectional benediction, which is spontaneous attraction, unflinchingly based upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead only by the association of the pure devotees.
వివిధ రకాలైన బహుదేవతల ఆరాధకులందరూ అత్యున్నతమైన పరిపూర్ణమైన ఆశీర్వాదాన్ని పొందగలరు. ఇది భగవంతుని యొక్క స్వచ్ఛమైన భక్తుల యొక్క సాంగత్యం ద్వారా మాత్రమే భగవంతునిపై నిర్విఘ్నంగా స్థిరపడిన ఆకస్మిక ఆకర్షణ.
So this briefly commenting, important instruction. Yes, it's time for deity worship. Our translator is Mataji will be helping also. Yeah, main point being mentioned here, two main points, is that all attempts in the material world, which are connected with temporary material pursuits, are ultimately illusory, because it's all they are all having the same result of keeping us here in the world of repeated birth and death, the world of suffering, and therefore one needs to have the good fortune of coming in contact, person of association with the pure devotees of the Lord who are engaged in activities meant to purify their existence, purify their consciousness, and so that one day they can be qualified to completely disconnect with the material world. Prabhupada explains that there are so many material sciences, not that we reject them, but we learn to direct them or properly utilize them in Krishna consciousness. Just like politics, economy. Most people in the world who are engaged in politics, engaged in economic development, they are becoming entangled. But we know from the example of great personalities in our Vaishnava history, who are discussed actually in the pages of the Bhagavatam. They were simultaneously, because that's often a misunderstanding of people. To become a devotee means to stop all kinds of material activities. It's not like that. One can be, or to become a devotee means you have to give up all your money if you have money. Uh, one can be a millionaire and be a devotee. One can be a politician and be a devotee. One can, so many of the material duties and responsibilities, and this is what we are meant to teach in our Varnashram college, how all of these different activities, in many ways, actually, our acharyas are mentioning, Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentioned, Varnashrama is already there because one cannot. Varnashrama actually means in connection with the modes of material nature, and nobody can avoid the modes of material nature. People from Hungary, from Canada, even though we don't know before coming to Krishna consciousness about the modes of material nature, they're working. So one cannot avoid the natural divisions that are there, but because they are disconnected with proper knowledge, proper understanding, they are people who are politicians today, for example, which is for many, not all, according to their nature, but they don't get the desired result because it's not one of the important points mentioned by Prabhupada in the purport. It is not connected with Krishna. It's not being performed for the pleasure of Krishna. It's not in keeping with the guidelines or instructions that are given uh, in the Shastra. So the problems of India, you know when they began? The problems of India. When did the problems of India begin?
Which Shringi cursing?
Huh?
Shringi cursing Parikshit Maharaj. Or before that,
Yes, actually, in Kali Yuga,
Parashuram.
yeah, there were. Well,
Parashuram.
the first incident was Shringi, the young son of a Brahmana,
Yeah.
who cursed Parikshit Maharaj. I was thinking of more recently.
Oh. I was thinking more
Right.
the past that Parashuram mentioned by Bhaktivinoda Thakur.
Bhaktivinoda Thakur speaks about Parashuram.
Yeah.
And the clash between the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas. Yeah, which is to this day actually continuing. I mean, but now I was thinking in the context of the independence of India. I mean, problems of India started way before that, but more recently in our modern times, if one reads this annihilation of caste, discussing in our seminar, Annihilation of Caste is a book written by a personality who in many ways, he was one of a number of personalities who introduced in India the Western culture, the Western way of thinking. So the point I want to make is that India had an opportunity, and there were a number of people. Gandhi was one of them, and others who wanted that actually in the Constitution when that was 1947, right? Independence of India. One group of people wanted that the Constitution be based on be relevant and be based on the Indian culture, Vedic culture, and they had prepared. I saw actually they had prepared a constitution. It's a big book, and they had one artist. They had commissioned one artist. Very interesting. I'm trying to find that video actually. Short video, short documentary, 1 or 2 minutes. This one person were showing, they have, I think, limited copies of what was meant to be the Constitution of India. And this person who was commissioned, he had different scenes of the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. Have you heard about this? He had different paintings, drawings, because the Constitution was meant to be in keeping with Dharma, with Sanatan Dharma. But we know that the Constitution of India, as it stands today, because of another group of personalities who were educated outside of India and therefore who adopted, isn't it? They adopted the Western ideologies, the Western narrative uh, of country has to be secular. You can't, you can't uh, do things simply based on religion. But people, even in those days, this is one great benediction that we have as devotees. Uh, People in those days, even now, to a large extent, don't understand the difference between religion and dharma. So it is wrong. It is not proper to actually govern a country based on a particular religion opposed to another religion. Prabhupada was expert. That's one of the reasons, like myself and so many Western people became attracted to the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, because it's very clearly uh, explaining how there are many religions, but actually there is one universal religion. There is one dharma. But the people, uh, I would say, including Gandhi, could not understand that, because they wanted basically this group of people, what they wanted to promote Hinduism. Uh, and Hinduism is different from Sanatan Dharma, although there is obviously a connection there. In one lecture, Prabhupada was mentioning how when I went to the West, people sometimes they accuse me. Prabhupada is telling, sometimes people accuse me that you're doing the same thing that other uh, preachers have done, of converting people from uh, one religion to another. Yeah, the Prabhupada said, no, that was not my propaganda. You can ask my senior disciples. I never preached that you abandon your Christian religion and you become a Hindu. That was not my approach. And that's a very fundamental and essential point, which it takes some time, and I guess some kind of preparation of intellect to some purity of consciousness to understand that uh, every country should actually be following what we call the principles of religiosity, or the principles of dharma. Otherwise, we have a situation that we all experience, which is largely Gnostic, uh, not believing in God, not believing in Shastra. And of course, in Kali Yuga, we all know that in the name of religion, so much of destruction, so much of suffering, etc. So many people don't want to hear about what we call organized religion, and they have many good reasons as well. Therefore, the need to in this purport, Prabhupada stresses naturally the importance of the Bhagavad Gita as being like a basic book of learning. And so it was interesting how a few years ago here in India, I forget which state, maybe Madhya Pradesh, the chief minister kind of declared that this Bhagavad Gita is not just a religious book, it's a book of knowledge, and it should be introduced in all of our schools and colleges. You remember that? Yeah. Um, and of course, this is what Srila Prabhupada explained, and this is what it's a core principle of our philosophy, which is very important. Uh, and that is why so many people from different countries and different previous denominations. Like, for example, here in India, I mean, it's an open secret. The Christians, when they convert people, isn't it? They will, you might have either seen it or heard it directly. They will tell people who were worshiping different synagogues, you destroy all of these. You just completely throw it out. Um, we don't say that. We don't say that you reject what you were previously following, but you see it in the proper light. Just like Prabhupada would say, Jesus, we consider him as Guru. He is in the category of such Shakta Vishavatar, especially empowered personality. So it is fanaticism actually that my religion is better than your religion. This is you see, is an imperfect understanding. Um, so only those who, I guess, are ready or somehow have sufficient purified consciousness can understand these things. But it's very important, and this is the hope of our acharyas, that one day, as more and more people understand about Sanatana Dharma, which is also practically equated to Varnashrama Dharma, then there can be proper positive changes within society. And therefore, to a large extent, I mean, to the greatest extent, Srila Prabhupada's desire to establish Varnashrama colleges was largely for that purpose, to explain the proper meaning and understanding of these topics. Yeah. Not excluding material sciences, etc. I think our time is close. Anyone have any thoughts, comments, questions? Yes.
Hare Krishna. I'm studying the Bhagavatam from the from the from the high, means the eye of the bird, the structure.
Okay.
And it looks to me, and maybe we can discuss later about that this is the key word of the second canto. Every canto have a special function which prepares the listener for the 10th canto to really have that mood, that bhava. So the first canto is making the listener for the perfect listener, like the perfect quality, like really focusing and really understanding the ultimate goal. So like the basic.
Grounding.
And the first canto should have one verse which is containing this primary goal of the canto. I think that could be, maybe, I'm not sure, but 1 to 14. तस्मात् एकेन मनसा भगवान् सात्वतां पति श्रोतव्य कृतव्यश्च ज्ञेय पूज्यश्च नित्यदा. Therefore, with one pointed attention, that's the first canto's real meaning. One pointed attention. One should constantly hear about glory, remember, and worship. So that's, I think, the key. There are many key words for all the Bhagavatam, but this is the key verse I think for the first canto. The second canto, which is the key verse and which is the function of the second canto? The second canto I heard, and I agree, the sadhana. How to build up the sadhana for one who is already one-pointed, qualified, but how to build for this pure attraction awakening. And I think that is the word. You mentioned yesterday that is a very important, very important verse, one before. But this is not sadhana, it's a goal. So now we hear the sadhana, and that sadhana is association with pure devotees with full attention. So I think that could help if we want to develop something like Varnashram College. And Varnashram College we want because we want to make really Krishna conscious people. Like, don't waste time. We can do so many things with different desires. But if we want to have pure devotees to practice, then we need to learn how to use the Bhagavatam for reaching that directly, reaching that as far as possible. So I think this concept could help to keep in mind, like as a glass. That glass is allowing to focus on the most important place and a little bit, covering our eyes, not to go here and there, because that may be also devotional, but it's not focusing in emergency time to come. That's what you think about.
Like many things, interesting topics to discuss, get more clarity or understanding. Yeah, each canto, those who actually focus on studying the Bhagavatam and ultimately the Bhagavatam, as we all know, is meant to be our I mean, both Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam being even, graduate studies, we know, as Prabhupada explained. So therefore, such discussions are important to understand the main message, for example, these cancer, eventually build up, something like that. But these topics require kind of ongoing, I would say, discussions. And I think, yeah,
Like one proof.
it can be there, but generally not at the end of the class.
I think here bhava they have translated as spontaneous attraction,
Bhava, spontaneous attraction, yeah.
but that's why I was checking commentary from that time. All acharyas they are translating. For example, Vishwanath is translating Bhagavati Bhava Sevatya iti Bhavanasya. Bhava he's translating as seva onto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and this is the result of worship of the demigods. So I don't know if there is some editing mistake or something. Like even Sridhar Swami and Jiva Goswami, everybody is translating as Bhagavati Bhava Sevatya Bhavanasya.
At the same time, you know that in the presentation of, the nectar of devotion speaks about different levels of bhakti.
Yeah.
So there is sadhana bhakti, then there is bhava bhakti.
Yeah. Yeah, but
there is bhava bhakti, which is different from the sadhana. Sadhana, there is no attraction as such.
Yeah, but bhava is not just the stage bhava bhakti, because while Jiva Goswami is writing this in this is Krama Sandarbha, this Adau Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sangha he had not commented upon that yet in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So bhava here he is telling iti bhava. He is telling this is bhava. So seva is bhava.
We one would have to in giving us these translations. At times there have been, because the early translators were not familiar with Sanskrit, etc., like that, and sometimes there have been maybe omissions or errors. At the same time, we know that various acharyas, according to the acharyas or commentaries, acharyas have sometimes a particular reason or purpose for maybe stressing one particular aspect. So this would require possibly more discussion as such. Because it's also valid. This is the interesting and very wonderful thing about Sanskrit. is that what the same word will have different meanings according to context.
Yeah, there is in Vaisheshika there is a text called Artha Sangraha.
Mm.
So it is the system. It is a pure whole system of how to understand the meaning, contextual meaning.
Yeah.
So
Right. Yeah. So I mean that's a whole subject matter in itself, of course. But interesting that you're mentioning how the various commentators.
Yeah, they are telling it is
translating Baba as
seva bhava.
I think that the word before is very important also. Achala means
Yeah,
achala.
it
Very
is
important. Achala.
fixed service.
So it's
Fixed service. Achala is unshaken. So
Yeah.
fixed seva bhava.
And that could be only if you have emotion. Without emotion, you cannot be fixed.
It's also important to have fixed attraction.
No,
Strong attraction fixes you.
fixed attraction. Yeah, but they are mentioning it is mentioned spontaneous attraction.
Yeah, so spontaneous
That
attraction
will become raga.
is connected with
Yeah.
being. In English we have the expression when one comes to the level of nista. They translate like in the West. It means fixed devotee, fixed up. Fixed up means like steady. And of course, beyond that, because even at the level of nista is not necessarily attraction.
Yeah.
But it means one is regulated and
strong.
Actually, nista means situated in the mode of goodness.
Yeah, this I think Madhurya.
Ruchi comes later.
In Madhurya Kadambini, yeah, because Madhurya Kadambini he describes Vishwanath describes this, and in Vaidhi Bhakti also there is a Ruchi and there is a Nishtha, and in Raganuga Bhakti also there is a Ruchi and there is a Nishtha.
Yeah.
The Cheshta Rupa Shilana of each is different, so it is not necessary that Bhava be present during Nishtha.
That's why the Goswamis in Vrindavan spent hours and hours discussing these kind of like the finer points, which is nice, of course, but we can't. We don't have that luxury in the morning.
Yeah.
Why not? That's what happened.
So we are still in the level of sadhana, because if someone doesn't start cooking after some time, you might complain.
Yeah, we can have.
All these things are interconnected. So, yeah.
So I cannot say more.
No.
I'm dying.